It's very important to nurture young talent. So in the early 90s or so, this was mooted, and here we are almost 20 years later with a very well-respected international song competition attracting competitors from all over the world. As long as it's song performed at the highest possible standard, we want to hear it. That's what makes this a very special competition. You sit down, first of all, and you think, where do we want the jury to come from? It must be international. It can't be too European. Mm-hmm. So we always look to Canada, to the United States, to Australia, Japan if possible. And we look for various fields of expertise. You look for different voice types. And then it's the mix of all these various experts that eventually brings the final result. Yeah. All the views are added up together, and you end up with a winner, because we all listen in different ways. I'm very struck by the fact that I can walk through the hall at the interval and get 20 different opinions, mm-hmm. even when one of the great artists of the world, or one of the great string quartets is performing, and the opinions are equally valid. Something can be very, very good, but what is the winner? Mm-hmm. And that's the question the jury has to ask itself. So hopefully it's done democratically and fairly.
I know it's done democratically.
Well,
you go to great lengths to make it so, which is marvellous, and I think the only way a competition of this stature can work.
Indeed.
Now, you are already a jury veteran yourself, John. Have you found yourself changing over the years with what you listen for or what you look at? Have you evolved in that sense?
Well, there are 3 or 4 basics. An attractive voice will get your attention. There's no doubt about it. A voice that's what I would call a B-list voice doesn't always get your attention, but maybe the singer communicates in a very special way, and maybe you find yourself as the competition progresses, you're listening to this person more than the person with the most attractive voice. Maybe they're saying something about the text that you haven't heard before. They touch you. You notice they're touching the audience and the people around you. So yes, it does change, but there are basics. Vocal quality is paramount. Preparation, interpretation, and I suppose that X factor, whatever that is, and that's very, very hard to define, but you know it when you see it.
Easy to spot. And
generally, the majority of the jury will see it as well. Not everybody, perhaps. But it's very interesting, as chairman, you see the voting coming in. And if the X factor is there, if you have 7 or 8 jurors, it's very obvious that 5 or 6 of them will see it very early on in the competition. And then by the time you get to the final, everybody has seen it, not through influence, but just by exposure. Sometimes it takes a little while for it to sink in, but it all happens through the process of listening. It's very hard work. It's a very intense process. But if you're listening properly as a juror, I think it all works out right in the end.
In addition to the jury listening to these young singers, John, there's a tremendous sense of celebration in the hall. There's an amazing atmosphere at all these rounds, and you have an audience that's also filled with concert promoters, with press. They're all making their own minds up as well, not necessarily the same as the juries.
And that's why it's such a valuable showcase. Somebody who's 21 or 22 possibly isn't ready at this particular moment to win a competition, but we all see potential, and we all follow potential with great excitement. And very often competitions are a first outing for somebody, and it could be that they come back and win in 3 or 4 years' time, or they win a competition elsewhere. This is their first taste of a competition. And that's very important too,
And you will have seen, if a name comes before you in a couple of years' time that has sung in the competition and maybe not even proceeded through the first round, you will still have name recognition as the promoter of this hall, will you not?
Absolutely. And there's a rough and tumble to competitions. Yeah. So a first competition is a difficult thing for a young singer or a young pianist. And then you become more experienced. Yeah. And your time, if the potential is there, your time will come. Yeah. But we all see the potential, and we follow careers and potential with great enthusiasm.
Wigmore Hall has this wonderful, very unique sound, very specific acoustic. It struck me in the past that young singers often find this quite hard to engage with. Do you have any particular thoughts or suggestions for a singer performing here for the first time?
Well, it's a difficult hall to gauge, and in terms of competition preparation, before you actually appear for the first time, I think you have 15 or 20 minutes on stage. It's not a vast amount of time. It was Benjamin Britten, I think, who said that the hall wills you to give your best, to do better and to take risks. There's something very special about the sound, about the atmosphere. Like any hall, the acoustic changes when it's full of people.
Of course.
Nothing is more absorbent than 500 human bodies. So what sounds loud in rehearsal perhaps will be not quite as loud in a full hall. It's very important not to shout. In terms of a competition, of course, winning is not the important thing. It's the preparation. It's encouraging young singers to put the effort in, put a special effort in, to prepare for a very knowledgeable audience, an experienced jury, and then to get feedback.
Yeah.
And a lot of these singers could be working in isolation all over the world.
Yeah.
They come here for a week, they get to meet each other, they get to listen to each other, and that in itself is a very valuable process. They always tell me afterwards that the process of going through the competition, going through the various rounds, even if they're knocked out, is worthwhile.
Well, you're also very careful that it's not winner-take-all, in the sense that the people who are eliminated from the later rounds also, they do get feedback from the jury.
Yes, and it's very candid, but it's very useful. And competitors...
Candid sounds as if you've had blood in the carpet in the past. Not everyone's been able to take it, or...?
Well, we're all different personalities.
Indeed.
And how we absorb criticism, however well meant, is down to the individual. But if you take it in the spirit that it's given, I think that there's nothing more valuable, really.
Well, if you want to grow as a young artist, you have to be open to it.
Absolutely. Same as a manager. In any career, you've got to be able to take criticism. And we all learn from life, we all learn from experience. And a competition, particularly a major international competition, if you've prepared well, and if you take it in the spirit that it's meant, is a major life experience for a young artist, and not just for the singer, but also for the pianist.
Of course. No, I think that's absolutely true.